Before going further, we need a distinction examiners ask about directly and that trainees blur constantly. Remodeling is not the only way bone changes. In remodeling, resorption and formation are coupled and happen sequentially at the same surface. Bone is replaced, but the size and shape of the bone do not change. Modeling is different. In modeling, formation and resorption happen independently on different surfaces and are not coupled to each other at all. Modeling changes the size and shape of the bone. It dominates during growth, but it never stops. Periosteal apposition keeps widening your femoral shaft into old age, which partly offsets the strength you lose from the inside. Hold on to that distinction, because at the end of this lecture, it explains why the newest osteoporosis drug behaves so differently from all the others. Now meet the crew, because every one of them earns its name. This is the osteoclast, the demolition cell. It is multinucleate, formed by the fusion of monocyte lineage precursors, and it is big. It clamps itself onto the bone surface with a ring of actin called the sealing zone, and that ring creates a sealed compartment underneath the cell. Into that private space, it pumps protons until the pH falls to about 4.5, which dissolves the mineral, and it secretes cathepsin K, which digests the collagen left behind. The membrane facing the bone throws itself into deep folds, the ruffled border, to maximize the surface area doing that work. And the pit it excavates has a name you will be asked for, Hauschup's lacuna. Behind the demolition comes the build crew. Osteoblasts are cuboidal, and crucially they are polarized. The nucleus sits away from the bone, and the secretory machinery faces towards it. They are stuffed with rough endoplasmic reticulum because their entire job is manufacturing protein, type 1 collagen, laid down as unmineralized matrix called osteoid, at a rate of 1 to 2 micrometers per day. Notice they work as a sheet, never as a single cell. And notice the osteoid seam, that layer of new matrix, sits unmineralized for about 10 to 15 days before mineral is deposited into it. That delay looks like a detail. It is going to matter enormously. That cycle has 5 phases, and the timings are the examinable part. Activation over days. The lining cells covering the surface retract, exposing mineral and osteoclast precursors are recruited out of the circulation. Resorption over 2 to 3 weeks. The osteoclast excavates, removing roughly 0.05 cubic millimeters of bone. Reversal over days to weeks. The osteoclasts undergo apoptosis or move on, mononuclear cells move into the cavity, and a cement line is laid down, a thin hypermineralized layer marking the boundary between old bone and new. Formation over about 3 months. Osteoblasts fill the cavity with osteoid. And then quiescence. The surface is covered by flat-lining cells and simply waits, sometimes for years, until something calls it back into action. Watch it happen. The osteoclast advances along the surface, and behind it the bone is simply gone, a trench where mineralized tissue used to be. It does not stop and wait. It keeps cutting, and following behind, separated by a distance rather than by a decision, the osteoblasts arrive and refill the trench with new matrix. That following is the whole point. It is called coupling, and it is not a coincidence of timing. The growth factors released from the bone matrix as it dissolves, transforming growth factor beta, the insulin-like growth factors, the bone morphogenetic proteins, are precisely what recruits and activates the osteoblast precursors. The demolition crew leaves the instructions for the build crew inside the rubble. Now put the 2 durations side by side, because this is the single most important idea in the topic. Resorption takes 2 to 3 weeks. Formation takes about 3 months. Demolition is fast. Rebuilding is 4 to 6 times slower. That asymmetry has a consequence that catches people out. Anytime you increase the rate at which new BMUs are switched on, you increase the number of sites sitting in the resorption phase at any given moment, and the skeleton loses bone, even if every single BMU eventually balances its books perfectly. That is called the remodeling transient, and it is why high bone turnover is itself a cause of bone loss, independent of whether the individual cells are behaving. The same cycle looks physically different depending on where it runs. In cortical bone, there is no free surface to work on, so the BMU tunnels longitudinally through the cortex as a cutting cone, boring a channel that osteoblasts then line with concentric lamella, and what you are left with is a brand new osteon, a new Havasian system. In trabecular bone, there is no tunneling because the BMU already has a surface. It excavates a trench and refills it as a new bone packet, and the turnover rates are wildly different. Cortical bone turns over at 2 to 3% a year. Trabecular bone turns over at roughly 25% a year because it has about 10 times the surface-to-volume ratio, and surface is where BMUs can start. That single fact is why metabolic bone disease shows itself in the spine and the hip first. Those are trabecular sites being remodeled many times more often. So what actually switches an osteoclast on? The control system is 3 molecules, and once you have it, you will never need to memorize the clinical facts separately again. RANK ligand, RANKL, is produced by osteoblasts, stromal cells, and osteocytes. It binds RANK on the osteoclast precursor, and that binding drives the precursor to differentiate, fuse, activate, and survive. RANKL is the accelerator. Osteoprogerin, OPG, is made by the same cells, but it is a decoy, a soluble receptor with no transmembrane domain, which binds RANKL and mops it up before it ever reaches RANK. OPG is the brake, and because the same cells make both, what determines the rate of resorption is not either molecule on its own. It is the ratio between them. Now watch what that ratio explains. Estrogen raises OPG and lowers RANKL. It holds the brake on. So at menopause, when estrogen falls away, RANKL rises, OPG drops, and the ratio swings hard towards resorption. Bone is lost at 3 to 5% a year for the next 5 to 10 years. The same logic covers everything else. Continuous parathyroid hormone raises RANKL, so do glucocorticoids, so do the inflammatory cytokines, interleukin-1, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, which is exactly why chronic inflammatory disease costs patients bone. And mechanical loading, working through the osteocyte, pushes the ratio back the other way. One axis, and most of metabolic bone disease falls straight out of it. Which brings us to the drugs, because every one of them is an intervention at a specific point in the cycle we have just built. Bisphosphonates bind avidly to mineral and are ingested by the osteoclast that tries to resorb it, poisoning that cell. Denosumab is a monoclonal antibody against RANKL, effectively a manufactured osteoprogerin, which is why its effect is so profound, and also why it reverses abruptly if the drug is stopped without follow-on treatment. Teriparatide exploits the paradox that intermittent parathyroid hormone builds bone, whereas continuous exposure destroys it. And romosozumab blocks sclerostin, releasing the brake the osteocyte was holding, and drives formation on quiescent surfaces without waiting for resorption to happen first. Look at that last one again. Formation without preceding resorption on a separate surface is not remodeling. That is modeling, the distinction we drew at the very start.